The Magny Cours circuit at Nevers. It has been built regardless of cost. The facilities here are absolutely magnificent. The lap length is 2.64 miles. There are going to be 72 laps in the race, and that totals just a whisker over 190 miles. The rules in Formula One say that the race will be 200 miles or thereabouts long, or 2 hours, whichever happens first. And often, well, not often, thank heavens, but if the weather is really bad and it's wet, you go for 2 hours, but you don't do the full race distance intended. So Schumacher in pole position against his adversary from the last 3 years, Damon Hill. Jorna Lacey and Berger, the two Benettons on row 2. Mika Hakkinen well up in the McLaren. Villeneuve well down for him, 6th position. David Coulthard in the 2nd McLaren, and Martin Brundle out-qualifies Barrichello. Parnis, the man who won Monaco, is 9th, and Rubens Barrichello starts behind Brundle. Pedro Diniz, the highest he's ever been, an excellent achievement in the Ligier. The two Saubers have done badly. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is only 12th. His teammate Johnny Herbert well down. Verstappen in the arrows. There's Johnny Herbert in 16th place. The two Minardis of Giancarlo Fisichella and Pedro Lamy from Italy and Portugal. Ricardo Rosset from Brazil. Badoer from Italy. Montermini from Italy. And Eddie Irvine in the Ferrari. We can expect to see him carving through the field. But then I said that about Michael Schumacher in Canada, didn't I? And we all know what happened to him. He had to retire, and Eddie Irvine retired on lap 2 with a broken suspension. Just a quick word about the Ferraris. They have a new clutch and hope to have overcome their starting problem, which has bugged them for a lot of Grand Prix this year.
Yes, one of the mysteries, in fact, of the Canadian Grand Prix was just how little progress Michael Schumacher made up after having stalled his car with a fuel pressure problem at the start. Now, at the time, his straight-line speed seemed to be so bad that we thought he must have an engine problem. In fact, it turned out that Schumacher and the Ferrari team had actually put on more wing angle onto the car in a quest for speed around the lap, but not on the straights. And so Schumacher had no particular engine problem. He did have a brake problem, though, and that's why I think, or looking at the lack of progress that he made, I don't think we're going to see a huge amount of progress from Eddie Irvine. I think he's got to try and be patient out there. But going back to qualifying, let's look at the high points and perhaps the lower points. Schumacher was in absolutely scintillating form. None of the teams had a great deal of running because the Saturday morning practice session that's normally used to get the cars honed for qualifying was wet and at best damp throughout. But Schumacher was an explosive style to put it on pole position, and that makes it Schumacher's 3rd pole position of the year so far. Jorna Lacey equalled his best ever qualifying position of 3rd up there because the one that fell by was, of course, Jacques Villeneuve, and he had that big accident in qualifying, and that didn't help him improve on the 6th position he had at the time. McLaren have definitely improved. They've got a new front wing. The front wing is actually a little bit further back than it was, and a new rear suspension that Mika Hakkinen has tested, but David Coulthard did not. So David is a little bit lacking in confidence with the setup, but nevertheless, the team have had their best qualifying performance as a team this year, with Hakkinen in 5th and Coulthard in 7th place. Martin Brundle's out-qualified his teammate, Rubens Barrichello, for the first time, and a relatively lowly 11th place of Barrichello, as opposed to the 6th that he normally has. But the Ligier team have gone well. This is their home circuit. This is where they know so well. So Panis moves up from an average of 14th to 9th, and Diniz was really quite exceptional in 12th place.
So we now wait for the formation lap, and there have been problems on that in the past when someone has failed to get away, sometimes from pole position, and has to start from the back. If you don't get away with everybody else and you're late starting, you just have to catch them up and start from the rear of the grid. Let us hope that this does not happen, especially to the front runners. Schumacher, Hill, Lacey, Berger, Hakkinen, Villeneuve, Coulthard and Brundle. Those are the top 8. We're on Lacey's car, or were there, the Benetton Renault. They're occupying the 2nd row of the staggered grid. You can see, naturally enough, they've got new tyres on. You can see the lettering on the tyres. And it's away, and the first corner, which they will be getting up to racing speed at, is the Grand Cours.
Well, running brand new tyres like that at the start of the race is not that normal, and just shows you how important tyres are. Eddie Irvine, we're looking at the back of him, does not have them. Peeling away in the distance through that flat-out 160 miles an hour corner. And then it's that notorious, this is looking back at the start as they come through here. This first corner actually, although it's very fast, is not the hardest corner on the circuit. It's this one, as we said before, is this long right-hander, the Estoril right-hander. Now at the end of this straight, you're going to see them come right down to second gear for the Adelaide hairpin. This is where we've seen drama in every Grand Prix, at that corner there. Last year, Lacey ran up the inside of Johnny Herbert. Here this morning, Damon Hill clouted Frentzen. And that's a problem for Schumacher already. It looks like Schumacher's engine is gone on the warm-up lap.
Now, that is incredible. It looks as though for the second Grand Prix in succession, Schumacher has hit a problem right at the start of the race, and he has. Before the race begins, Brett Schumacher is out of it. It reminds me of the time that Alain Prost went off at Imola on the formation lap, also in a Ferrari, and Schumacher fails to start. The French Grand Prix will therefore fail to get the points that he desperately wanted to close the gap to Damon Hill. There is a replay of the engine going, and Damon Hill, of course, will think that all these Christmases have come together because he's seen the man that might have beaten him into the first corner out of the race. A quite sensational, and I do use the word advisedly, happening at the beginning of the French Grand Prix. Schumacher, well, I was going to say disconsolate body language, but I think he's so amazed that he can't believe it is true. He's worked and worked and worked for this situation. So now Damon Hill is effectively in pole position on the right-hand side of your picture. On the left is Jean Alesi. Behind Alesi is Mika Häkkinen. And Gerhard Berger, of course, is moving up a place as they slot into their positions. There are 21 cars starting now instead of 22. Number 2 on the rear wing there is Eddie Irvine, starting last in the sole Ferrari in the French Grand Prix, and that is Jean Todt, the top man. Watch for the lights to go out. Out! Go! Damon Hill moves across into the left-hander at the Grand Cours. And Damon Hill in the Williams leads, and Mika Häkkinen is up into third position in the very powerful Mercedes-Benz engined McLaren. So it's Hill and Lacey. Behind Alesi is Häkkinen. Behind Häkkinen is Gerhard Berger. So it's Villeneuve. Villeneuve has moved up. Gerhard Berger has dropped back. So Villeneuve has moved up from 5th on the grid. He qualified 6th, but of course started 5th with Schumacher out. Villeneuve moves up and will be the top challenger, I think, to Damon Hill before this race is over. But look at the gap now that Damon Hill is starting to eke out over Alesi. Häkkinen, Villeneuve in 5th position. It is Gerhard Berger in the second Benetton, and then it should be David Coulthard in the second McLaren. Let's see if it is. Hill is coming through Imola now. That is the 115-mile-an-hour corner into the Chateau d'Eau, the right-hander. Then down to the chicane, which he approaches at 150 miles an hour. Over the line, Hill leads.
So brilliant start from Damon Hill there, but also from Martin Brundle. We're looking at him now in 6th place, up from 8th on the grid. Yet again, Brundle's stunning start form really making up amends. But Damon Hill has got it totally under control now. He will have had a face full of oil, I suspect, from the blow-up of that Ferrari. But what a dire situation for Ferrari. Failing to start properly in Montreal. A dismal race ending in retirement. And then with Irvine relegated to the back of the field, with then Schumacher out on the very first formation lap. Really, really bad stuff. But look at Damon Hill now. He's really into a groove straight away. He's had the measure of this place throughout the weekend. And we've got Villeneuve back there. That's his main rival, and he's back in 3rd place behind Alesi, 4th place, sorry, behind Alesi and Häkkinen. I know, flying start from Häkkinen too, and McLaren really showing that they mean business these days.
This could well be a show race for Damon Hill. His chief rival is out of the race, and one has to ask oneself whether the Ferrari disease that has been so prevalent in the past is striking again. Schumacher said they were going to get it all together by Canada. That was the last race, halfway through the season. Well, they plainly haven't. Ferrari are in trouble, and Eddie Irvine is up to 16th place. He started 21st. He's made up 5 places on the first lap, and Irvine's first lap was about 12 seconds slower than the leaders, of course, on account of his position. And you're looking at Alesi in second position. Alesi was some 1.9 seconds behind Damon Hill on the first lap. He's on lap 3 now, and Hill is stretching his lead. Now it's stretching his lead, and into retirement comes Montermini, so that is 2 out. Michael Schumacher is out. Andrea Montermini is out. Schumacher in the Ferrari, of course. Montermini in the 40. You're riding with Jean Alesi looking ahead, and that little dot in the forefront is Damon Hill, who's got a lead now of, I estimate, about 2.5 seconds. It was 1.9 seconds on the previous lap. But the Williams Renault is obviously a magnificent package for this Magny Cours circuit. This is Imola coming up to the Chateau d'Eau, and there are still 69 laps to go in the race. Down to the chicane, hard on the brakes, second gear, 70 miles an hour, right, left, Hill goes into the Lycée, there he is. Following in through, Jean Alesi. Now, the gap was 1.8 seconds. You can see Mika Häkkinen third in the background. He's got Villeneuve right behind him in fourth place.
And that's where the best battle's going to be, I think, very soon. Villeneuve should be faster than Häkkinen, but well, though the McLaren is going, the Williams, as we can see from Damon Hill's performance, is better still. So, at the moment, we need to look at that battle, and in terms of straight line speed, there's not a lot between them. Now, this is through that Estoril right-hander. The problem is for Villeneuve, who's behind Häkkinen there, is that, here we are, coming into the hairpin, is that Villeneuve can't get too close to Häkkinen through that corner because he will lose the front downforce. When he gets closer than about 4 cars' lengths, he'll lose the front downforce, and then he'll get the understeer. And if he doesn't do anything about it, what happened to Jacques Villeneuve in qualifying could happen. He could run wide of the corner. So it's a problem there for Villeneuve. And this is, of course, why starts are so very, or qualifying is so very, very important. And Häkkinen now dropping back from Alesi, and Hill really running a scintillating pace. And I must admit, the lap times that I'm looking at, 1:19.2, he's set the fastest lap so far of the race. This is looking a bit faster than I would have expected from a 2-stop routine. Just possibly they're going to go for 3.
So watch Mika Häkkinen in the red and white McLaren in third position, battling with fourth placed Jacques Villeneuve as Gerhard Berger comes through. Martin Brundle comes through. There is David Coulthard. Behind David Coulthard is Pedro Diniz, and out of the race goes Giancarlo Fisichella's Minardi. That's 3 out. This is lap 5. And there is the young Italian who qualified extremely well. He again out-qualified his Portuguese teammate Pedro Lamy. Fisichella is the better driver of the two, very clearly. He's a star of the future, but sadly he is under-sponsored, and Giancarlo Minardi is doing the financial work himself.
Now, we're with Panis, with his Ligier. In front of him is Rubens Barrichello. Look how he'll close right up on Barrichello under braking. That is normal. That's because Barrichello, of course, has to get on the brakes before Panis. It doesn't mean that, in fact, Panis is better on the brakes than Barrichello. Overtaking here really is tricky. And there's a puff of smoke I saw, I'm sure, from the back of the Williams there. Damon Hill's Williams. And let's have a careful eye on that just as we cut to him. I thought I saw a puff of something. Let's hope not. But certainly it has happened before. And in fact, in this morning's warm-up session, we had a lot of incidents. We had a hydraulic leak from Jean Alesi with his Benetton. Damon Hill had his brake problem. He also had his clash with the Sauber of Frentzen. Schumacher went off. And Coulthard went off. We've had a pretty action-packed weekend at Magny Cours here so far.
Mark this then. The gap between Damon Hill and Jean Alesi was 2.8 seconds. And it is now 3 seconds. I was going to say it'll show up in the times if he has got an engine problem. And there was somebody limping in a red car at the back there. Was it Eddie Irvine or was it one of the Arrows? I didn't get a close enough look. This is lap 6 in the 72-lap race. Hill, Alesi, the gap 3 seconds. Häkkinen third, Villeneuve fourth, Berger fifth, Brundle, that you're looking at now, ahead of us is 6th.
Yes, that's looking at Barrichello, and that was indeed Eddie Irvine, and there he comes into the pits to put the end, surely, to an absolutely torrid weekend for Ferrari. They had this problem in qualifying when these side barge boards were too high. They were 15 millimeters high. That is definitely the sign of a man going into retirement there. There is no urgency about that whatsoever. Irvine will have been on the radio telling them what the problem was. Perhaps Tony Jardine will find out for us. But what an amazing start from Pedro Diniz. He's in 8th place, and having qualified 12th, that's a fantastic job. He's overtaken his own teammate Olivier Panis too. This really will go down in his books as something absolutely fantastic. But no more sign of smoke there from the back of Hill's car. Maybe it's just a bit of dust that was thrown up. That would certainly be the most likely explanation, I think, and he's now well ahead. Hill totally under control, and 3 seconds the lap before, and the gap is going to be now, it's 3.2, so pulling away steadily now.
Well, there is a major malaise at Maranello, which is where the Ferrari headquarters is. Schumacher blows up on the first lap, and his teammate Eddie Irvine goes out on the 6th lap after a quite terrible Canadian Grand Prix 2 weeks ago when neither of them scored any points. In fact, both of them retired. So that's 2 races in succession that both the Ferraris are out, just as they were saying that things were getting better for them and they were looking to win races. Not so. Damon Hill leads on lap 7, 1/10 race distance already, and he's 3.2 seconds ahead of the similarly Renault V10 powered Benetton of Jean Alesi. It's the McLaren of Mika Hakkinen who is third, but the gap is increasing because Hill is lapping some 0.4 of a second faster than Mika Hakkinen. It's nearly 7 seconds now between Hill that you're looking at and Hakkinen who is third. And right under the rear wing of Mika Hakkinen, hopefully we'll see it soon, is Villeneuve has dropped back a bit in the second Williams. Berger is 5th. Martin Brundle, a superb 6th ahead of David Coulthard. Pedro Diniz has just, as Jonathan has just said, having qualified the highest that he has ever done in any car, the 40 or the Ligier, is now running a genuine 8th. He's not running 8th on account of the fact that everybody else has retired from the race except the 7 people ahead of him. He's driving a worthy and well-deserved 8th. Well done, Pedro Diniz. 9th is Barrichello. 10th is Parnis. So Pedro Diniz is leading his teammate who won the Monaco Grand Prix.
Looking at John Alesi here. Alesi going very well, it has to be said. The Benetton team have worked hard to try and close the gap between them and the Williams team that's frustrated them for some time. They've got the same engine. Both teams run Renault engines to the same specification. Alesi and Berger are pretty evenly matched as teammates. Alesi tends to be the little bit faster. Alesi is the better racer, though. I think he brakes later in the corners, and generally he can be entrusted to make the best possible use of the car. And he's certainly come down on hard by the media and other people for the odd incidents he has, but he's also put in some great performances. So far, Alesi is 3.7 seconds behind Hill, and the question mark at the moment is, are these two drivers, are they running on the same fuel stop strategy? I suspect they are. Still, I must say that 2 stops is the one that we would expect, and we're on lap 8 just coming up. Hill's now starting lap 9. We should expect the first stop somewhere around about lap 21, lap 24, that kind of area, if they're going to be the first of 2.
Mika Hakkinen, I talked to him just before the race began. I said, have you really made progress with the car, Mika, or is it you driving out of your skin? And he said, the car really, really is good. Better balanced, it's handling much better. I think we are on his way, and this is the proof, because Jacques Villeneuve doesn't hang about, and you can see as they come into the 40-mile-an-hour Adelaide corner, 3rd and 4th, and you see Alesi disappearing in the distance. The Villeneuve is, in point of fact, not making anything up on Mika Hakkinen. And behind it is still Gerhard Berger. So a Williams leads, a Benetton is 2nd, a McLaren and a Williams are 3rd and 4th, and you are looking at them. And another Benetton is in 5th place ahead of Martin Brundle, well in the points. And the Peugeot V10 engine, which yesterday in Brundle and Barrichello's Jordans was a special evolution, more highly powered version, has been put aside for the race, and they're going for the more reliable, slightly lower revving engine for reliability in the race. The original spec engine is back again. Martin Brundle is in 6th place. His teammate Rubens Barrichello is in 9th position. And it looks as though Martin really is getting on top of things as Mika Hakkinen goes into the Grand Cours. This is Estoril, the 2nd major corner on the circuit. He's doing about 120 miles an hour as he comes out of it. Now the speed builds. The right-hander is called Golf. He takes it at 170 miles an hour. And the gap between himself and Villeneuve in terms of time, although you can see the distance, is just over 1 second. The time it takes you to say one, that is 1 second. It's not very long, but it's going to take Jacques Villeneuve an awful lot of hard driving to close it.
Yes, I don't think really we're going to see Jacques Villeneuve get a lot closer than this for the reasons that we said before, and that's that on these particularly fast sweeping corners, as he gets closer, he loses the downforce from the front end of the car, and as he does so, he can't corner it fast, and so he goes back again. And what's very important for all of these drivers is that they do try and preserve their tyres, and the way they do that is by keeping the car neat and tidy, by not sliding it, by not getting understeer, by not getting oversteer, because when a tyre actually slides, the temperature that it operates at suddenly shoots up, and that deteriorates tyres very quickly. So they've got to keep it neat and tidy, and I reckon Jacques Villeneuve is sitting there really resigned to his fate, certainly for the next 12, 13 laps, which is the first sector of this race before they come in for the first round of fuel stops. He's going to need to position himself carefully with the Williams team to try and get ahead of Häkkinen at the first round of pit stops. But McLaren's pit work is good, it has to be said. Williams are good too. There's going to be little in it, and Villeneuve's got to just follow along behind there. Sure, make use of any opportunity he can to benefit from a mistake by Häkkinen, but that's not very likely, and do it if he can in the pits. And there is one of the cars.
It's Jos Verstappen going off in the TWR Arrows, and he's not going to be at all a popular chap with Tom Walkinshaw, who recently bought the Arrows team. Here is a replay. You can see he goes on to the gravel trap on the inside, loses steering control, goes over the outside, and he's been off every day this meeting now.
Well, that was a pretty silly thing for Verstappen to do, apart from the obvious, because he actually ran wide at the exit to that right-hander. That shouldn't have been a major problem for him. He should have been flat out fairly easily through it. I suspect that he just got a little bit sloppy in terms of his positioning of the car, allowed it to drift too far to the right-hand side, got off the clean racing line, and, of course, going off on the right meant that he had no chance of the right-hand side of the left-hander, I should say, meant he had no chance of making the following right-hander. This really is not good. We've said it before, and Verstappen is undoubtedly quick, but his reputation is becoming so cemented now as a driver who makes too many mistakes that it has to be a serious question mark about his future. Verstappen came into Formula 1 from Formula 3, initially has a difficult role alongside Michael Schumacher at Benetton, and after a year out of Formula 1 came back, and he has had some great performances. He does have talent, but my goodness, he does make too many mistakes.
Damon Hill, that you're looking at, has just made the fastest lap of the race in a little over 1 minute 19 seconds, which is exactly 2 seconds slower than the all-time lap record here at Magny Cours, which is held by Nigel Mansell, 1992, in the 3.5-litre Williams Renault with all mod cons like active suspension and so on, which today's cars have not got, and Damon Hill is racing also with an engine which is 500cc smaller. Doesn't sound a lot, but it's a bit of extra power that he hasn't got. So 2 seconds slower, and I'm sure he'll go quicker still before the race is over, is a very respectable gap. Over the line with Damon Hill, he's now on his 13th lap. The gap between himself and Alesi, which is constantly building, is 6.6 seconds. The Benetton team beneath me, they are immediately beneath me. I'm looking at them as I talk to you, are getting ready to receive somebody. Now, whether it's Alesi who is in second place or Berger who is in fifth position, I do not know. And that was Häkkinen driving through. A puff of smoke from Martin Brundle's engine, was it? There is Brundle. He is in sixth position in the Jordan. Now, let's see if Coulthard behind him, Coulthard, not Häkkinen, closes up on the Jordan Peugeot, or was that another mystery puff of smoke like the one from Damon Hill's Renault engine? Lap 13, 72 lap race, Hill, Alesi, Häkkinen, Villeneuve, Berger, Brundle is the order. That is the race leader. It is Damon Hill.
And from the pits, we've heard that Eddie Irvine's problem was either gearbox or differential. And Eddie Irvine's had more problems than that in the past few weeks. He's also had some suspension breakages in testing. And what with Schumacher's demise here, one really does have to wonder how long Schumacher can be diplomatic about the situation there at Ferrari. He's gone there, as we all know, for a great deal of money. He had high hopes of the team doing better, not just in performance, but also reliability. And he must be seriously beginning to doubt if those hopes are ever going to be realised.
Lap 14 out of 72, retirement so far. Schumacher out before the race begins. Montermini out in the 40. Fisichella out in the Minardi. Eddie Irvine astoundingly out in the second Ferrari. Both of them out by the fifth lap. Jos Verstappen goes off in the TWR Arrows, and there are 17 out of the 21 starters left in the race. And Benetton have changed their mind. They're indulging in a little light exercise, I think. The wheels and tyres which were put out ready have been taken back into the garage again, no doubt to be put into the special electric tyre blankets which heat the tread rubber up to almost 100 degrees race operating temperature. Damon Hill, lap 14, leads Alesi. The gap has stabilised at 6.7 seconds. Damon looking very good indeed. The best car and engine package in the race. And you look down now on the Jordan and the McLaren of Martin Brundle and David Coulthard battling for sixth position. Here is a replay. And Martin Brundle locks up the right front wheel. Not enough to flat spot the tyre, so he's all right there.
No, absolutely right. It's just a sign of how hard Martin Brundle's trying. The Jordan team run their car with a very stiff suspension setup, and that means that the inside front wheel will tend to lock coming into the slow corners. And it's interesting too that the drivers have the greatest amount of grip from their tyres and therefore can brake hardest at the highest speed when the downforce is right up. And as the speed bleeds off, as they come right up to the slower corners, they lose speed, they lose downforce. They have to indeed ease off the brakes to prevent locking wheels. Of course, they don't always do that as much as they should, and that is why we see puffs of smoke, not when they first hit the brake pedal, but when they are right virtually into the corner, when the car is at its slowest speed. Now here is where David Coulthard will have any slight chance of overtaking, but it's going to be pretty minimal because apart from anything else, the Mercedes-Benz engine is good, but the Peugeot engine is also very, very good indeed. And indeed, the Jordan cars do have the highest top speed on the straight. We had 190 miles an hour from Rubens Barrichello in this morning's warm-up, and that is just too good for Coulthard to be doing anything about. He's going to have to need a mistake from Brundle. Really, Coulthard should be a little faster, I think. He's going to need to have Brundle lock his brakes up a lot more than that, and that's one of the 40 cars, Kim, is Luca Badoa coming in the pits for his stop. Now, a lap 14, Hill's on lap 15, so he's going on 3 stops by the look of it. Now, I've said that Hill's progress looks pretty good. His lap times are better than I would have expected, looking at past year's performance. Now, the logical conclusion from that would normally be that perhaps he's running a 3-stop routine here. If he is, he'll be coming in the next 3 or 4 laps. But if he's not, and I would think that is still the most likely thing, we haven't got as high a track temperature as we had this year as we had last year. And a cooler track means more grip from the tyres, and perhaps that's why they're going faster. But look how close it is. It is real frustration for David Coulthard. He dearly loved to get by Martin Brundle, but Brundle has made it up at the start. He moved up from 8th on the grid to take that 6th place, and he's realising the benefits of it.
This is Martin Brundle's 151st Grand Prix. It is David Coulthard's 34th Grand Prix. That is how evenly they're matched. You've seen on the circuit, Brundle has got all that much more experience. There was starting to be talk about Jordan dropping Brundle after an awful first half of the season. But his problem was that he couldn't attune his style to that of the car. And you see now Pedro Diniz and Parnis sandwiching Rubens Barrichello. They are 8th, 9th and 10th. And the Brazilian, Pedro Diniz, I can hardly believe my eyes looking at this, because Pedro Diniz last year in the 40 team was, I have to reluctantly say, the laughing stock of Formula One. Maybe he's one of these people who reacts well to power, and he's certainly reacting well to a much better car, because look, he is staving off Rubens Barrichello, who has had a pole position and a 2nd place in a Grand Prix. He's staving off his teammate Olivier Parnis, who, like him, uses a Mugen engine, and Parnis won the Monaco Grand Prix. He's not making any effect on the gap at the moment.
No, I have to agree entirely. This really is an exceptional performance from Pedro Diniz. And I think maybe he has been a little bit too much maligned in the past. Incidentally, he's the only driver in Formula One who has not crashed or spun out of a race this year. So that's a great credit to him. But clearly he's holding Barrichello up. But I'm also beginning to wonder about Martin Brundle in the Jordan, because he's suddenly started to lose quite a bit of time. He's now dropped back to 12.9 seconds behind Berger. He was pretty close. He's obviously holding Coulthard up. And there we are. That's Panis having a look to try and go Barrichello. And of course, the problem we've got here for Barrichello is that last he gets held up by Pedro Diniz and tries to find a way by, that renders him very vulnerable to be being overtaken by Olivier Panis. Difficult situation. He's got to look at his mirrors and ahead, both as much as each other.
Lap 18, watch this, here is the order. Hill leads, gap to Alesi, 9 seconds. Alesi second, gap to Hakkinen, 2.8 seconds. Hakkinen third, gap to Villeneuve, 1 second. Villeneuve fourth, gap to Berger, 4 seconds. Brundle is fifth. You've seen how close David Coulthard is to him in 7th place, and you're watching the battle for 8th position, which is the best on the circuit. Pedro Diniz, Ligier, Rubens Barrichello, they both come from Brazil. Rubens Barrichello in the Jordan Peugeot, and you see just there on the right the nose of Olivier Panis's Ligier Mugen. He's in 10th place. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is 11th. Ukyo Katayama is amazingly, this is just as amazing to me as the fact that Diniz is leading Panis, because Katayama is leading Mika Salo, his Finnish teammate, who is usually miles an hour quicker than he is. Salo is in 14th place. Johnny Herbert, most unhappy with the Sauber, is in 14th place. Ricardo Rossit is in 15th place. Pedro Lamy is 16th at last, and, well, he's not last because Badoer is last, but already he has been lapped. Verstappen is out, Irvine is out, Fisichella is out, Eddie Irvine is out, Montermini is out, Michael Schumacher is out, and Damon Hill, I'm going to make no prophecies. Damon Hill is leading the French Grand Prix by nearly 10 seconds. Now that is an excellent cushion at this stage of the race as David Coulthard pushes all the time. The Jordan ahead of him of Martin Brundle, but if he's looking for a gap in Martin Brundle's armoury, he'll have to look very hard. Martin has been there, done that. Whatever you talk about in motor racing, and we're with the Ligier team now, and it's Panis coming in. This is the first tyre stop we've had. Lap 19, Olivier Panis has decided that he's not going to get past Barrichello. He's not going to get past Diniz on the track. So he's come in to take an early pit stop. There is Mika Salo coming in from 13th position.
So these drivers are all on cue for making the first of 3 pit stops. 72-lap race, mid-distance lap 36, quarter-distance lap 18. That's where we are now. Now, last year, Ligier did extremely well by running Martin Brundle on a 3-stop routine. That helped him on his way to that 4th place. So clearly that's what they're running. Now, what's going to be really amazing is if, in fact, they've changed strategies between Diniz and Panis. Panis is doing a 3-stopper and Diniz on a 2. I would have thought, surely, that we must see Pedro Diniz coming on the next lap. It would be logical for them to obviously not bring both drivers in on the same lap. That would result in a too congested pit. So let's expect to see, as Martin Brundle shows the pressure that Coulthard's putting him under once again, let's expect to see Diniz come in at the end of this lap. But what we haven't seen so far, most significantly, is Hill, Alesi, Hakkinen or Villeneuve, the real front runners, coming in. And if they don't do so in the next lap or two, then that really looks to be pretty firm that they intend to make just 2 stops.
And the main excitement there, I think, is going to be between Hakkinen, who is in 3rd place, Villeneuve, who is in 4th position. There is less than a second between them, and it may well be that Villeneuve will come in a bit earlier than he might have done in order to try and get past Hakkinen in the pits, as it were. But it's still Hill, Alesi, Hakkinen, Villeneuve, Berger, Brundle, and that is Martin. And Coulthard going for it at the Adelaide hairpin. Martin quite firmly shuts the door. Oh, no, you don't, David. My line. I'm going to have it. Stay where you are.
Yeah, Martin Brundle, very, very experienced. He's not going to fall for that one easily at all. Already you can see the oil building up on the front of Coulthard's car, the face. And again, Martin locks that inside front wheel. But let's look. We know it's virtually impossible to overtake on the circuit. Therefore, we know that if the drivers are going to do it, it has to be done in the pit stop. So who is going to help? In fact, coming in to the pits early will not necessarily help, because they'll need to put more fuel in the car by coming in a lap earlier. It's really all down to how fast the drivers can come into the pit lane. And it's quite a tricky pit lane. It's a tight corner. There's potential vulnerability for having a minor shunt in the pit lane. But that's one thing they've got to get right. The second thing they've got to get right is coming out of the pits fast, getting right back on the pace as quickly as possible. But of course, it's the actual pit work itself from the team of 16 people. It's for all of those to do it. Now, who can gain out of this? Well, clearly Hakkinen and Villeneuve, but this battle is one that could certainly be changed position in the pits. McLaren's pit work is probably better than Barrichello's in. Now, he was just behind Diniz. Let's see what happens to him when Diniz comes in for his stop.
And the Benetton team are out again, no doubt about it, as you watch Rubens Barrichello from 9th in the race, 8.4 seconds. So Barrichello has stopped, Parnis has stopped, Salo has stopped, and Eddie Irvine is out of the race. And you look now from the cockpit of David Coulthard's car at Martin Brundle ahead. Martin Brundle has got the power with the Peugeot V10. The French engine rivals, of course, are very concerned about what happens here. This is their home track, and in we come with John Alesi. Mika Hakkinen has gone up to second in the race. Villeneuve has gone up to third in the race. John Alesi gets a short pit stop, only 7.3 seconds. Now, is he going to rejoin in front of Gerhard Berger, his teammate, who was fifth on the previous lap? It looks to me as though he is. But anyway, there is a change for second and third. On lap 22 out of 62, Damon Hill is now leading Mika Hakkinen by 13.3 seconds. Neither of them have stopped, of course. Villeneuve moves up to third position. Williams Renaults are first and third. McLaren Mercedes is second. Jean Alesi rejoins in fourth position. We are on the Benetton now as he rounds the 40 mile an hour Adelaide hairpin, accelerates up to 165 miles an hour. And there are Villeneuve and Hakkinen, second and third. Now, the pit stops between these two are going to decide their positions, because if Villeneuve can get in and make a shorter pit stop than Hakkinen, he could get past the McLaren Mercedes. Are either of them going in on this lap? No. Into the Lycée, start another lap, 23.
Now, that stop we saw from Rubens Barrichello was 8.4 seconds. That's what I would expect to put in a third of a tank of fuel, consistent with his first of two stops. But Jean Alesi's stop was rather faster than that, 7.3 seconds in total. And it just makes me wonder whether, in fact, he's going to do a shorter stint this time. This was exactly what Benetton did with Schumacher back in 1994. And then that means he will have two more stops to make. Either that's the situation, or, on the other hand, it could be that he's had more fuel in the tank to start with. But I think that's less likely. What we need to do is to look carefully at the length of stops of the others, the Villeneuves, the Hills, the Hakkinens. Now, if they're around about 8 seconds, that makes it look more like, to me, that that was the first of three for Alesi, rather than just being a very, very quick, good two-stop pit stop.
And here is the excellent Jacques Villeneuve, the winner of only the fourth Grand Prix that he drove in, the European Grand Prix at the Nürburgring. Remember that he had that gigantic crash yesterday at over 150 miles an hour, but he coolly steps into the new car that's been built for him overnight and is racing third with the second place man, Mika Hakkinen, right in front of him, 13.8 seconds behind Damon Hill on lap 24 out of 72.
And the action is surely about to happen now. The action in terms of, will Villeneuve get by Mika Hakkinen? So, a McLaren's position in second place under threat there. On the other hand, can David Coulthard find a way past Martin Brundle? It's all going to be determined in these pit stops. Pedro Lamy comes in his Minardi. And incidentally, that rough note you can hear is the engine speed limiter working, which on those engines in the Minardi works in a particularly rough way. In comes Lamy, stops, right at the right position. Benetton are getting ready, so this will be a pit stop now for Berger. We've seen Jean Alesi's. It may be that Benetton are going to run a different strategy with each. If Berger's pit stop is more like 8 seconds, that will be consistent with that. Brundle comes in. Now, this is the battle, Brundle and Coulthard.
And Martin Brundle needs a good, clean stop now. Very experienced. Stops absolutely on the line, which enables the jack men to get their front and rear jacks in perfectly. On goes a brand new set of tyres, and out goes Martin Brundle, 8.5 seconds. And of course, David Coulthard has moved ahead of him. He was right behind him. And you saw in the background the second Jordan coming through the picture. And now we're back again with Jacques Villeneuve. He has not stopped. Neither has Mika Häkkinen in front of him. You're on the third car. There, the red and white one is the second car. Behind them in fourth place is Gerhard Berger. And the gap between Berger and Villeneuve, who is in third place, is only 3 seconds. Neither the McLaren nor the Williams come through, but Berger is coming into the pits. There he is, Gerhard Berger from fourth position, 3 seconds behind Villeneuve. I'm looking down as you're looking at the picture. I can see the whole Benetton crew swarming round the car. Wheels off, wheels on, fuel in, and out goes Gerhard Berger. Nice stop, 8.1 seconds. He is now fourth. Lacey is now fifth. Coulthard is now sixth. First, second and third are Hill, Häkkinen and Villeneuve. And we're with Gerhard Berger. This is the Benetton Renault.
And as you look at Berger's car, you see that black digital display on top of his dash. That's the way he has his instruments. And you see the red lights in the middle flashing up as that Renault V10 reaches its highest revs. Now, the red lights on each side at each end, those flash up when he changes down to third gear. And Berger likes it that way, is to give him an extra reminder, apart from the main display, as to what gear he's in. Because, of course, with these paddle arrangements, you can't just feel where you are from the gear lever. The paddles always return to the same position.
Now, I'm watching Damon Hill, as you are, and I'm wondering what his strategy is going to be, because don't forget, when he started this race, he'd got Michael Schumacher in front of him, and his race strategy would have been based on the fact that the Williams team would have expected Schumacher to get into the first corner first with that new clutch of his to do a decent start. And it may well be that Damon Hill is replicating the strategy that was so successful for him at the San Marino Grand Prix, which he won. He came in, he had 2 stops, but one of them was very late indeed.
Now, what's interesting here is that David Coulthard has stayed out. Let's not forget that Martin Brundle came into pits. Now he's come in, but his last lap, he's just come into the pit lane now. Coulthard's last lap, when looking at him, was his fastest lap, so he's tried to make up some time. Now, this is going to be crucial. Can he get out in front of Martin Brundle? This is the opportunity. 7.8 seconds. Very good pit stop. Let's have a look. We're looking out of the window at the moment. Prix goes Martin Brundle, and Coulthard is ahead. Brundle will be right over the back of him now. We can't see it, but for sure Brundle's over the back of him. If we get a view from the outside, we can see it all, but it seems to have worked. McLaren left Coulthard out longer. That meant his stop could be slightly shorter. Critically, he was able to put in some fast lap times, albeit 2 or 3 of them, whilst he had that clear track, whilst Brundle was out of the way in front of him. And that's what tactics and making it work for you is all about. Hill gets the inboard. Damon Hill will be coming in for his stop at the end of this lap. But this, unlike that of Coulthard, Barrichello, Brundle, does not need to be that critical.
I'm mystified. The Benetton mechanics are out again with a new set of tyres. Now, I can't imagine why. Lacey's been in, Berger's just been in, but this is no dummy run. They're actually taking the tyre warmers off while I talk to you. The man with the lollipop, the chap who stands in front of the car, is all ready to get in front of whoever it is. I'll let you know as soon as I know myself, obviously. Meantime, lap 27 out of 72. Hill, who has yet to stop, is 13.5 seconds ahead of Mika Häkkinen, who is 7/10 of a second. There's the proof. We're with the third place man Villeneuve, and that is Häkkinen in front of us. Lacey is fourth. Berger is fifth. Incredible. Pedro Diniz is in sixth position in the Ligier. He is in a point-scoring position. It's a slight false dawn because he has yet to stop, and Damon Hill is coming in. Now, Damon Hill, there he is. This is the race leader. Nice clean stop. He's got 13.5 seconds. He's got 13.5 seconds lead. And I'm looking now for Jacques Villeneuve to come through. And Häkkinen has come in. Here is Mika Häkkinen coming in from third position. Villeneuve is gone through. I'm just watching Jean Lacey. There is Damon Hill, and out goes Mika Häkkinen. So, of the top 6 now on lap 28, as you watch Mika Häkkinen coming out, having completed his pit stop, Hill has stopped, Villeneuve has not stopped, Häkkinen third has stopped, Lacey is 4th and has stopped, Berger is 5th and has stopped. We're with Damon Hill now. Pedro Diniz is in 6th position and has not stopped.
Which makes his performance all the more creditable. To be running at that pace with that amount of fuel in it really is good. But all action now centres on this man, Jacques Villeneuve. Can the Williams team get him out fast enough to get ahead of Mika Häkkinen? Frankly, they've got a tough job because that pit stop we've just seen from the McLaren team with Häkkinen was super slick. 7.7 seconds, and his time in the pit lane, 25.2 seconds in total. David Coulthard was 24.7 total. So Coulthard again emphasising how good he was at getting into the pit fast and getting out fast. Villeneuve stays out. He's going to stay out for another lap. Now let's look to see what lap times he's running. He's now free of traffic. He's doing 1 minute 19.8. That indeed is 1 minute 19.0. He's really hammering the times in now. So there's the evidence of it. Now what Villeneuve is clearly trying to do is that now that Häkkinen's out of his way, we can see how much he was being held up by Häkkinen, and he's now set the fastest lap of the race, of course, and he's really making the car work for him. He's building up an advantage so that when he comes out of the pits, even if the Williams pit stop is the same time as that of McLaren's, then he will have got more speed on the track, he will have gained time on the track, and when he comes out, that should keep him ahead. Now, he's going to take about 25 seconds, 24, 25 seconds he will lose in the whole pit stop routine. So we can have a little bit of a look. At the moment, he's 22.4 seconds ahead of Mika Häkkinen. So he's going to need to pull out a little bit more to make it sure, and he will be doing that on this lap, though. We know that too. Let's just have a look at the end of the lap. He will almost certainly come in this time, surely, because we're well beyond 1/3 distance, though, now. We're on lap 29 for Villeneuve, and the 1/3 distance was lap 24. He goes through the chicane now, coming down the hill. This is where he'll be peeling off to the left very soon if he's going to be coming into the pits. Through the chicane, and is he? No, he's not. So let's have a look at the gap this time. Villeneuve, can he set another fast lap? He's doing it on the track. He's free of that traffic. 19.2, it's still quick. As there's Johnny Herbert in the pits for his stop. Been a torrid time too for Johnny Herbert. The Sauber has not gone well, and Johnny's having particular handling problems, although the Ford engine's made progress. Damon Hill now, though, sets the fastest lap, and that is Pedro Diniz out of his Ligier. What a sorry end for Diniz after that startling first session.
Yes, he's the 6th competitor to retire, and he really does not deserve that. And Jacques Villeneuve on lap 30, and we're looking at the Williams runner as Diniz sadly gets out of his Ligier. Jacques Villeneuve is 10.2 seconds ahead of Damon Hill, but Damon has just gone fastest. He's gone 0.2 of a second faster than Villeneuve. He knows that the Canadian has yet to come in to make his stop, and this is Hill's opportunity on new tyres to go as quickly as he possibly can to close the gap, in the hope and the expectation, indeed, that he will take the lead from Villeneuve when the Canadian comes in. And he should be coming in this lap. Here he is. Villeneuve comes in, the race leader. Now let's have a look and see where Damon Hill is. Well, I'm looking at him now. Damon Hill is approaching the Lycée as Villeneuve comes up to the pits, and Damon Hill is going to take the lead and has done so. Damon Hill has gone through in the lead, and Villeneuve is going to rejoin in 2nd position ahead of Jean Lacey.
Now, the crucial thing is now, where is Mika Häkkinen? I suspect that Villeneuve, despite that stop that wasn't as good, Häkkinen's gone by. There's Häkkinen right behind. Villeneuve gets out in front. Now, that was because Villeneuve made up the time, as we saw on the track. In fact, I think the stop of Mika Häkkinen's was better. That was a 7.7 second stop that we had from Häkkinen, and we saw that was about a second quicker than we had from Jacques Villeneuve, but it doesn't matter. The key thing is Villeneuve is out there now, and of course Damon Hill was always a long way ahead of Villeneuve, so was going to be taking over the lead. So now we've got Villeneuve from Hill, from Lacey, from Häkkinen, from Berger and Coulthard, with Hill leading, beg your pardon, having come back out, of course, ahead. And that's with the first round of pit stops over.
And Damon Hill is driving another immaculate, calm, cool race. There he is. You can see this is the best package on the racetrack, the best Formula One package of them all this year. The Williams car, the Renault engine, and Damon Hill at the wheel. Coming through now, he goes down to the slow 40-mile-an-hour Lycée corner to complete his 31st lap. You'll see the next driver come up on your caption, Jacques Villeneuve, coming through in second position. And when his name appears, Alesi in second position, 10.7 seconds. And Villeneuve, the gap between Alesi and Villeneuve then is just about 3.7 seconds. You can see how close Hakkinen is to Villeneuve, just over 2 seconds. And he is 3 seconds ahead of fifth place Gerhard Berger. In sixth position, it should be David Coulthard coming through. But Hill now has got a 10.7 second lead over the Benetton Renault of Jean Alesi. We are coming up to the half-distance lap, which is lap 36. It's a 72-lap race. We're on lap 32 at the present moment. And Damon Hill with 5 wins under his belt already. And those 5 pole positions this year already. And that 21 points World Championship lead over his teammate Jacques Villeneuve is starting to look good for another Grand Prix victory. But don't think if Damon Hill wins this race and thereby increases his World Championship lead that he is going to be invulnerable in the World Championship. At the end of this race, after the French Grand Prix, there are still going to be 7 races left. That's Luca Badoer joining the retirement and his teammate Andrea Montermini. As I was saying, there are still going to be 7 races left. That means there are still 70 points to be won. 10 points for first place, 6 points for second, and so on, down to 1 point for sixth position. So Damon Hill would not be safe in the World Championship until a lot later, because it's always theoretically possible anyway that the championship leader can retire from every race and leave the chap behind him to gain enough points to catch him and pass him. Now, lap 33, Damon Hill leads Jean Alesi's Benetton Renault by just over 11 seconds, and Alesi is 3 seconds ahead of Jacques Villeneuve, who is third. Mika Hakkinen is in fourth position, 3.5 seconds behind Villeneuve. Fifth is Gerhard Berger, so both the Benetton Renaults are in the top 5. Coulthard is sixth, but 23 seconds behind Berger. Seventh is Brundle. Eighth is Parnis. Ninth is Barrichello. There is Brundle, and he has got behind him Olivier Parnis. This is the battle for seventh position that you're looking at. And both these drivers know Magny like the back of their hand. Martin Brundle drove for Ligier last year and previously, and Parnis is in his third year with the team, and Magny is the headquarters and the nominated testing circuit for the Ligier team.
Yes, a lot of rivalry here in that Brundle came in occasionally, or for half the season last year, when Panis was the regular driver at Ligier, and virtually every time that Brundle did come into the team, he out-qualified and often, or usually out-raced Olivier Panis. Now, Panis is a driver who is undoubtedly quick, he's talented, we saw that at Monaco when he won, but he's also a little bit emotionally delicate in that his confidence can be sapped very easily, and that's what happened when Brundle came to join him. This year, with a teammate like Deniers, who, it has to be said, despite the performance he's put on so far, has not been a threat to him, Panis' confidence is buoyed. He's the number 1 in the team. He feels like he controls it, he feels confident, and therefore he'll be determined here to be assertive with Brundle, to show that he is more than a match for the Englishman. It's going to be a good battle all the way throughout. But let's just reflect back. Before that first round of pit stops, we had a situation in which Coulthard was behind Brundle and was stuck behind him. Villeneuve was behind Hakkinen. Now, good, clever pit work from both those operations, and Panis has a little bit of a look there. That's the Adelaide hairpin. Now, what's happened there is that by going wide onto the entrance, you saw Panis try and go wide. There was no way he's going to go around the outside of him, but what he did do was able to come out on a faster line, albeit inside. Clearly, it hasn't really helped him at this stage, but he's certainly been able to harry Brundle very well. So, back to those stops. We've seen slick pit work from the McLaren team, get Coulthard ahead of Brundle. Ukio Katayama coming into retirement by the look of it. That's the end of his race. And also good work from Villeneuve out on the track, getting him ahead of Hakkinen. So Villeneuve has now closed up from being 2.9 seconds behind John Alesi to being 1.7 seconds behind Alesi. So Villeneuve and Alesi about to look on the action, but also this is Gerhard Berger. He's just half a second behind Mika Hakkinen in front too. So we've got more battles to look forward to as this race goes on.
I wonder if we're going to see the fourth Williams first and second of the season, because they were first and second in Australia, they were first and second in Argentina. Hill Villeneuve was the order, and then they were first and second in Canada. But it's a long way ahead. We've still got half the race to go. There is the McLaren of Mika Hakkinen. Behind him is the Benetton, and Hakkinen dives into the Imola dip, and in the yellow-nosed Sauber, that is Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who is in 10th position. Everybody up to 10th place has been lapped. Mika Salo is 11th. Katayama has joined the retirements. There are 8 people out of the race now in the order that they retired. Schumacher, before the race had even started, when his engine blew up on the formation lap, to Ferrari's dismay and discredit. Montermini out, Fisichella out, Eddie Irvine, the second Ferrari, out on the 5th lap. Jos Verstappen out, Pedro Diniz sadly out from an excellent 6th position. Luca Badoer out, now Ukyo Katayama out. We ride with Jacques Villeneuve, and you can see how close he is to Alesi's Benetton. 2nd place, that is.
But as ever, can he get by? That's the question. Now, the Williams has got about a 3 or 4 miles an hour straight line speed advantage over the Benetton. The Williams is a little bit more aerodynamically efficient, I think. I think it's probably the Benetton team realised that too. Benetton have clearly made real progress over the last couple of races. They had a new nose and a new underbody that they had at Montreal. It's taken them a while to realise the benefit of that, but I think now they are. We're seeing strong performances here from Alesi and Berger. But can Villeneuve find a way by Alesi? As we go around the lap, we can see where Villeneuve is stronger than Alesi, and that probably is most of the places. We're looking now from Olivier Panis at the back of Martin Brundle's car. There's only half a second separating them. It really is very, very close indeed. Now let's go round Villeneuve through the flat left-hander. Nothing they can do there. They're both flat on the throttle. Now, the problem for Villeneuve through this right-hander is that he will be getting understeer if he gets any closer to Alesi than that, he'll be losing the effectiveness of the front end of the front wings, and that will make him wash wide. So he has to lift up the throttle, but look at the way that he's accelerating up now. This is where it could happen. There is the result, and Villeneuve goes by. We can hear the brakes going. Villeneuve goes by using that straight line speed advantage. That's what happens when you get a 3 miles an hour straight line speed advantage, coupled with the slipstream effects. Being in the tow, he had about 5 miles, 7 miles an hour advantage. Alesi being remarkably polite, it has to be said. Now that looks like Olivier Panis coming back up into the pits for his second stop, and we know he's on a 3-stop routine, so this is his mid-distance stop. It should be about 6.5, 7 seconds. Let's watch.
From 8th position, Panis in the Ligier Mugen, and the race that he's been having was not only a race of cars and drivers against Martin Brundle, Panis in the Ligier and Brundle in the Jordan, but a race of engines, because the Ligier has got the Japanese Honda associated V10 Mugen engine in it, and of course Martin Brundle's Jordan has got the French Peugeot V10. Race order, lap 38. Here's a replay now. Villeneuve just goes up the inside of Jean Alesi, late braking. Alesi does nothing to stop him going through. Villeneuve holds the apex, accelerates away, and now Alesi is down to 3rd position.
Well, he did just come up the inside and late braking, but don't think it's as easy as that. Villeneuve would have been planning that manoeuvre throughout the preceding corner. He had to drive absolutely on the limit through that estriol right-hander, coping with the turbulent airflow off the back of Alesi's car, coping with the sheer racket that comes out of the back of 700 horsepower, closing all the way, getting it absolutely right. He pulled out, got in the slipstream and got the inside line, and really left Alesi with no alternative but to give him the inside. Now, the risk that Villeneuve stood there was to actually be braking too late, and Alesi would have been hoping that he'd done just that, in which case we would have seen a puff of smoke, wheels locked, and Villeneuve would have run wide of the apex, allowing Alesi to tuck back up and in on the inside. That didn't happen. Villeneuve is too good for that, and the Williams is very, very stable. I have to say that the Williams car does not just have a lot of downforce, it also has a great deal of stability. Its downforce is very evenly and consistently distributed, and the car is impressive in so many areas, but braking is one of them, and we saw a very good example of that. So Villeneuve is now 12 seconds behind Damon Hill. He's now set the fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 18.9. Could we yet have a race on our hands? Can Villeneuve close that gap? He's got plenty of laps to do so, and 11.2 seconds he can certainly cope with. There's the evidence of it. Whilst further back, we've still got Gerhard Berger behind Hakkinen. He's slipped back to 1.4 seconds, and it may well be that he has to keep that until the next round of pit stops. That's going to be round about lap 45, lap 48, somewhere around there.
Now, you see a car in front of Jacques Villeneuve. It is that of Mika Salo, who is in 11th place, the Tyrrell Yamaha. There is Salo, and Villeneuve will be lapping him in the next lap or two. Now, Jean Alesi, I was going to say, would be doing his best to keep up with Villeneuve in the hope that Salo might inadvertently block the Williams Renault and give Alesi the opportunity to nip past again and retake that second place. But now Villeneuve is enough of a gap, has created enough of a gap. In fact, it is some 2.5 seconds. So that is how much quicker on one lap the Williams Renault is than the Benetton Renault of Jean Alesi, as Villeneuve comes through the Lycée on his 40th lap into lap 41. So there's another 32 laps for the top three and the rest of them that follow. And Olivier Panis has now really got moving. He's in 9th position. He is 10.5 seconds behind Barrichello, but he's just gone 2.2 seconds quicker with the first lap we've had in the race in under 1 minute 19 seconds. There it is, 1 minute 18.712. Panis, the Frenchman who knows the Magny Cours circuit so very well, and we're with him now. That's the nose of the Ligier Mugen that you can just see in the right-hand side of your picture. There is the Frenchman, Olivier Panis, the ex-Formula 3000 champion of Europe, the ex-Formula 3 champion of France. It's his third year with the Ligier team, and he's a much undervalued driver. Very good indeed. He richly deserved his first place in Monaco.
Now, great that performance from Panis is, and we can just see how hard he's trying. Panis will be really inspired here. He will have been looking forward to this race. He knows the team know the circuit. He knows the circuit so well. But let's also make it quite clear that Panis does have his car in the best possible trim, and he should be going the fastest in a way, to the extent that he's got his new tyres on after that last fuel stop, as Martin Brundle goes up the inside of Rosset there. But Panis has got new tyres on, but also being on this three-stop routine, he's got less fuel in his car with new tyres. Less fuel means less weight, means faster lap times than either Jacques Villeneuve or Damon Hill. Johnny Herbert locks his left front wheel here, and that looks like it's coming down into the Adelaide hairpin, and looks like he's going to lose control of it. Well, it's certainly getting out of shape. This is a slow-motion picture, of course, that we're seeing. I wonder if there's anything wrong with his car. It looks as though it probably is simply him braking too late. And he has found that... now here we are with Jacques Villeneuve again, coming up the inside of Pedro Lamy in the Minardi. He says, waves his fingers at Lamy, and that will have undoubtedly meant that he's lost time following him. And of course, he is right on the chase now of Damon Hill, 11.6 seconds. He hasn't lost too much, but on that last lap, he did lap 0.8 of a second slower than Hill. Hill has set his personal fastest lap on lap 40. That's a 1 minute 18.9. It was a 1 minute 18.8 from Jacques Villeneuve and 18.7 from Olivier Panis. And that's the Sauber team getting ready for another set of tyres for Johnny Herbert, as we ride once again with Gerhard Berger. And we can see that he's actually dropped back a little further back, 1.6 seconds from Mika Hakkinen. I think resigned to following the McLaren until a possible chance to get by at the second and the last of the pit stops that both Hakkinen and Berger will be doing in about 7 laps' time.
Lap 42 out of 72. 14 of the 21 starters are left in the race at about 2/3 distance. Damon Hill is now 12.6 seconds ahead of Villeneuve, who therefore did lose a bit of time in passing Lamy. Williams Renaults are first and second again, and Jean Alesi is 4.5 seconds behind Villeneuve. Hakkinen is fourth, Berger is fifth, and David Coulthard is in sixth position. There is the proof. And here coming towards us is Gerhard Berger, fifth position, and in front of him is Hakkinen's McLaren. And the gap is what you can see.
Now, Benetton team are getting ready. They've got tyres coming out of the wrappers. I think this must be for Jean Alesi. Let's not forget that he had less fuel went into that car at that stop. His stop was shorter. And the question at this point is, are the Benetton... Let's assume, number one, that this is for Alesi. The second question is he going to go for... Is this the second of two stops, or is it the last of two? Now, if it's the second of two, it'll be another short stop. 6 seconds, second of three rather, it'll be another short stop. 6, 7 seconds. If he's got to get to the end of the race on this amount of fuel, it's going to be longer, more like 8 or 9, possibly even getting close to 10. He's coming down. This is Berger, and that's Alesi coming in. So, let's remember the numbers.
Right underneath me, Alesi, on goes the light on the fuel nozzle. When that light goes out, and I'll tell you, the mechanic will know that the fuel has stopped flowing. It's gone out. Up comes the nozzle. Out goes Jean Alesi. 10 seconds stop. He was in third position. Mika Hakkinen was only 2.8 seconds behind him at the previous lap. And he exits in front of Johnny Herbert in the Sauber Ford in 12th position. He has already been lapped, but it is now lap 43. So there are 19 laps left, and Villeneuve is in second position. The gap has come down by 0.2 of a second to 12.3 seconds as Gerhard Berger goes past Mika Hakkinen at the Adelaide hairpin. He has done to Hakkinen what Villeneuve did to Alesi. Sailed through on the inside of the corner, and you're looking now at Villeneuve trying to close that gap, but he has brought it down by another 0.2 of a second. Damon Hill's previous lap was 1:19.3. Villeneuve that you're looking at has just gone round in 1:19.1. But he'll have to go a lot quicker than that to make a discernible difference to the 12.2 second gap between him and the leader.
So Gerhard Berger takes Mika Hakkinen for third place, but I'd love to have had a proper look at that moment, because Hakkinen's lap time was a 1 minute 23.7 on that lap, so he lost a lot of time. And indeed, Hakkinen was well ahead, so I think Hakkinen must have made some mistake, had a big lock-up, maybe even a half spin, something like that, to allow Berger to both close the gap and get ahead. But let's go back to that Alesi second fuel stop, and I think the answer was there on the screen. The 10 seconds mean that was long enough to get sufficient fuel into that car to get to the end of the race. So that's the second of two stops for Alesi, and one wonders, why did he stop so early? Why did they distort the normal mathematical division of the race into three? And I think the answer was that what they did is they set themselves up with a mechanism to overtake a slower car that might have been ahead of Alesi in the first third of the race. Now that could have been Michael Schumacher, and by doing that short stop, that would have got hypothetically Alesi out ahead of Schumacher, and then hopefully he would have used the better performance of his car to pull away during his middle stint, so that when he needed that longer stop that he's just had, he would have had enough track advantage to come out still ahead. There's the theory.
And there's the leader, Damon Hill, lap 45. 10 seconds now ahead of Jacques Villeneuve, because Villeneuve took 1.9 seconds out of Damon Hill's lead on the previous lap. I assume because Damon was in amongst traffic, and that is the Jordan. And behind is Olivier Parnis. That's Rubens Barrichello ahead of us in 8th position. Parnis is closing up. The gap between him and Barrichello 8th, Parnis 9th, was 1.2 seconds. It's virtually nothing now, because the nose of Parnis's Ligier was almost touching the wing of Barrichello's Jordan. Now, Damon Hill is threading his way through traffic. He's lapped Lamy twice. He's lapped Rosset twice. He's up now with that battle between Barrichello and Parnis. Now, they are both very quick, and each will be concentrating on the other. Barrichello will be trying to keep Parnis behind him. Parnis will be trying to get past Barrichello. There's Barrichello. On the right, the nose of Parnis is Ligier. And Damon Hill is coming up behind them, and he wants to lap them. And this will give Jacques Villeneuve the opportunity to close the gap. In fact, it's down to under 10 seconds. Damon Hill, it's critical for him, the race leader, that he gets past these two as quickly as he possibly can. And wham! That's Parnis going past Barrichello at Adelaide. This is the favourite place for passing. I said before and I say again that is a slow corner, 40 miles an hour after, here's a replay, after a 180 or 90 mile an hour approach. So, Parnis has been planning, as Villeneuve did, his tactics, and he builds up the momentum, the last of the late breakers. Here is another replay. At the top of the picture, the Jordan. The bottom car is the blue Ligier of Olivier Parnis, who moves up now to 8th position. So, lap 46 with Damon Hill right behind them. There he is. That is Hill. And you can see that Hill has got a grandstand view of what's happening in front of him. But that's the last thing he wants, because now what is the gap going to be at the end of lap 46? It was 9.9 seconds between Hill, the race leader, and Villeneuve in second place. But, of course, we're back again with Parnis. Just as Hill has got to get past Parnis and Barrichello in the reverse order, Barrichello first, then Parnis, so Villeneuve will have to do the same thing. And unless the two men who are being lapped deliberately make it easier for Villeneuve, having seen Damon Hill go past them, it means that the gap should be returned. And Gerhard Berger, I think, is coming into the pits from third position. This is his second stop. On goes the fuel light. It's on the right-hand side of the fuel nozzle that you're looking at in the top right corner of your picture. And Gerhard Berger leaves the pit lane, and he should be ahead of his teammate Jean Alesi in 5th position. Lap 47 then. Damon Hill leads. Villeneuve now is 9.4 seconds behind him. Hakkinen is 21 seconds in third place behind Villeneuve. Alesi has gone up into 4th position ahead of his teammate Gerhard Berger. We're with the Austrian in the Benetton Renault now. 6th is David Coulthard. 7th is Martin Brundle. 8th is Parnis, who has got ahead of Barrichello. 9th, Frentzen is in 10th place. Salo is 11th. Johnny Herbert is 12th. Ricardo Rosset in the Arrows is 13th. Pedro Lamy is 14th, and the last of the 21 starters. And everybody up to 8th position now. Olivier Parnis has been lapped, and Barrichello, this is 9th position, having been lapped, he's been passed, you see, by Damon Hill, and Villeneuve now has got the gap down to 8.3 seconds with the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 18.63 seconds, as Rubens Barrichello rejoins. Again, order. Here is Damon Hill. This is a replay of Hill passing Parnis and moving ahead of the man who is in 8th position, a lap ahead. So now Damon has lapped everybody up to Martin Brundle, and he really needs to keep his skates on. He's got them on. He needs to keep them on to prevent that gap, 8.3 seconds between himself and Villeneuve, coming down even further.
Well, this really is impressive stuff from Jacques Villeneuve. He's piling on the pressure there. This 8.3 second gap he could certainly make up, but he's going to need a little bit of help. There's Damon Hill coming up the inside. Look at all the debris all around the place there. Olivier Parnis, he's the one on the 3-stop routine. Hill has yet to come in for his second stop. Villeneuve and Hakkinen, those three have all yet to come in. But whilst we saw a good stop from the Benetton team, another view of that, whilst we see a good stop from the Benetton team, it's worthy of mention too that we had an excellent stop from the Tyrrell team, because Mika Salo, with that stop of his, was 24.7 seconds in the pit lane, and that equaled the best ever that we've seen, and that was from David Coulthard on his. So I think a bit of a back slap there to the Tyrrell team for doing that. It's so easy to miss the performances when they're back there in 11th place, but it was a good effort.
And meantime, Villeneuve goes quicker again. 1 minute 18.6. Down comes the gap again. It was some 10 seconds, then it was 9, then it was 8, now it's just over 7. 7.3 seconds between Damon Hill leading on lap 49 and Jacques Villeneuve, his teammate, second. And so Villeneuve took a full second out of Damon Hill's lead. They both stopped once. Hakkinen has stopped once. Alesi, who is 4th, has stopped twice. Gerhard Berger has stopped twice. There's Damon Hill through the Imola turns into the Chateau d'Eau. Now he's dropping down to the chicane to go through it at 70 miles an hour, ahead of the lapped Olivier Parnis, and look back for Jacques Villeneuve. The gap was 7.3 seconds. What is it now?
And look out for pit stops too. Tyre warmers off at the Williams pit. Villeneuve, we believe, coming into the pit. And every second's going to matter here now. Villeneuve, 7.3 seconds behind Hill. Let's watch the stop. Good stop there from Jacques Villeneuve. We didn't see the end of it, but we saw the number, and that's what matters, providing nothing went wrong. 8.4 seconds. So when Damon Hill comes in for his stop in a lap or two's time, I would think it can't be more than that, then it's going to be imperative for Hill's chances that he doesn't lose too much time in the pits for Villeneuve. Villeneuve's pit lane time was 26.58, and this is important too. This, just to remind you, is the time from when they come into the pit lane at the end of the lap to when they rejoin the track at the end of the pit lane, and therefore it takes into account, to an extent, how fast they literally come into the pits and how quickly they get going again when they come out.
Lap 50, I'm sorry, 22 laps to go. And David Coulthard comes into the pits from 6th position in the McLaren Mercedes. He's some 11 seconds behind Gerhard Berger, who's now pulled away, of course, in 5th place. Out goes Coulthard. Good stop, 7.7 seconds. So that means about 85 litres of fuel will have gone into the McLaren. And on lap 51, I do apologise, Damon Hill, we join him on the Williams Renault as he comes down to the Adelaide hairpin. He's doing about 180 miles an hour here before he backs off, round Golf, the right-hander, under the bridge, brakes hard on, down into second gear, down to 40 miles an hour. And Hill has now lapped everyone up to Gerhard Berger. He's lapped David Coulthard, who's been into the pits, of course. And he is now 30.8 seconds ahead of Jacques Villeneuve on account of the fact that the Canadian in second place has had his second stop. So once more, it's all going to be down to the pit stops here in Magny Cours in France. Hill, Villeneuve, Häkkinen, Alesi, Berger, Coulthard are the only 6 on the same lap as race leader Hill, coming down now to complete his 51st lap.
Now, this is where he'll come into the pits if he's going to, through the right, left, and he's not. He's staying out. Tyres are indeed not ready yet. But that really was exceptional pit work from the McLaren team. Once again, one of the fastest stops, bearing in mind the amount of fuel that's going in. 7.6 seconds from Coulthard on his second one. 7.8 seconds on his first stop. And all this comes from not just good pit work from the mechanics, but also from precise positioning from the driver, because the driver must come up and place his car, bring it to a standstill within inches of the correct position. Even 6 inches, certainly a foot, will lose time as the mechanics, particularly holding the refueling hose, have to move it across, losing those precious tenths of a second.
Now, you're looking at Damon Hill coming up to the 180, the left-hander. I believe that the board is going out from the Williams team to tell him to come in on the next lap. Meantime, there is Heinz-Harald Frentzen, 10th and lapped. That is Mika Häkkinen in for his second pit stop, as out goes the Sauber, and Damon Hill is going to be coming through very shortly to get that in board. He will be going through on his 52nd lap to start his 53rd lap as the McLaren blast out of the pit lane. A bit of a delay there as Mika Häkkinen gets away. Now, if we stay with Damon Hill on this onboard camera, we may see that board go out. Look for it. There it was. Damon Hill has had the board. He's on lap 53 out of 72. He leads Jacques Villeneuve by 31.2 seconds. He should have enough time to get into the pits, bearing in mind that it takes about 26 seconds for a good stop from entering the pit lane to leaving it. He should have enough time to get back in the lead, about 5 or 6 seconds ahead of Jacques Villeneuve on what will be his 54th lap. But a lot of things can go wrong at a pit stop. Let's hope they don't go wrong for Damon Hill. Hill leads, Villeneuve second, Hakkinen third, Lacey fourth, Berger fifth, and Parnis and Coulthard are down there in 6th and 7th places.
And there's a replay there of Olivier Parnis coming up the inside of David Coulthard, it is. And touch they go. Parnis comes through, but that is where the Adelaide hairpin, that's where, let's have another look. There is Parnis up the inside. Coulthard chops across to the inside. Parnis takes to the curb on the inside, but no damage is done, and away they go. But in comes Damon Hill now. In comes Damon Hill. He's 30 seconds ahead of Villeneuve. He will lose 25 seconds or so on this. That'll put him, if it goes well, just 5 seconds ahead of Villeneuve. And let's not forget, after the last round of stops, Villeneuve was 11 seconds behind Hill. So Villeneuve is closing.
I'm watching 2 places at the same time, believe it or not. Hill is leaving the pit lane. I'm watching the approach to the pit lane, and Villeneuve has not even yet appeared for the Lycée corner. Now he has. Villeneuve goes into the Lycée corner. Damon Hill is well on his way on his 54th lap. This is Villeneuve, and Damon Hill is round the Grand Cours, which is the first left-hander, into the Estoril bend at 120 miles an hour, and he has got at least the length of the finishing straight lead over Jacques Villeneuve. And Lacey is in 3rd position with Gerhard Berger now in 4th position. You can see how close the 2 Benettons are. The Benetton teammates of Jean Lacey, who is 3rd, and Gerhard Berger, who is 4th, are battling for that last podium place on lap 54. The veteran Austrian and the French Sicilian, Gerhard Berger in his 189th Grand Prix. Jean Lacey in his 111th Grand Prix. Jean Lacey has only won 1 Grand Prix, and Gerhard Berger has won 9 of them with McLaren and Ferrari. This is a really close fight.
Now there's one more significant pit stop to come. Well, that's Johnny Herbert's, but that's not that significant. He's too far behind. But the one that is from Olivier Parnis, and we expect to see him in the next lap or 2. He will be taking his 3rd pit stop. He is currently 2 seconds ahead of David Coulthard. He's about 20 seconds ahead of Martin Brundle, who is 10 seconds ahead of Barrichello. Now, if he loses about 22 seconds, that's going to put him behind Brundle, who'll move up to 7th. That'll be Parnis back to 8th, but ahead of Rubens Barrichello.
And the gap between Hill and Villeneuve on lap 55 is for Damon a comfortable and reassuring 9.5 seconds. As the 2 Benettons go through, just as there are no team orders between the 2 Williams-Renault drivers, Hill and Villeneuve, so there are no team orders between the Benetton rivals and teammates, Jean Lacey and Gerhard Berger. And each will be determined to get that 4 World Championship points for the 3rd step on the podium, and to get 1 more than the chap who finishes behind them in 4th place. Lacey into the Adelaide hairpin. Berger right behind them, and Parnis is coming in now for that critical stop from 6th position. Olivier Parnis comes in. Coulthard therefore moves up into 6th position. Up goes the jack. On go the wheels. And 7.4 seconds. Let's see how long Olivier Parnis takes for his complete pit lane. He's taken just a tiny whisker under 25 seconds from the time he entered the pit lane to the time he exited it, having taken on more fuel, about 80 litres, 85 litres of fuel, and 4 new tyres and wheels. And we're on lap 56 now, 72-lap race. Renault engines are in the first 4 places, 2 of them in the Williams cars of Hill and Villeneuve, the other 2 in the Benettons of Lacey and Berger.
And this is a good, strong performance from Gerhard Berger. He made the later of the 2 second stops, therefore his tyres should be in slightly better condition. He stopped some 5 laps later. And this, again, let's remind you, is a high tyre wear circuit. And Berger, like Lacey, is benefiting from the work the Benetton team have done. They're sporting this green surround now. This is the head protection area in an effort to differentiate the Benetton cars from the similarly blue and white Tyrrells. But Jacques Villeneuve sadly has slipped back a second. He was 9.4 seconds behind Hill after that pit stop, and now 10.3. But interesting too that stop of the Williams teams was very swift indeed. And of course, one of the reasons for that is that as he stopped so late this time, they didn't need to put as much fuel in the car to get him to the end of the race. And again, it could have been that tactic that could have been race winning had Schumacher been ahead of Hill. That would have meant that once again the Williams team could have used that as a mechanism to get by as Berger goes there, following Lacey to the end of the race.
Out of the Nürburgring turns and into and out of the Imola turns. All the corners here are named after race circuits, with the exception of the Golf turn, and through to complete their 56th lap and into lap 57, watched by Benetton boss Flavio Briatore go his two drivers. Now, Briatore earlier on in the season gave both of them a strong talking to. He wasn't satisfied with their performance. Whether it was them or the car is of academic interest, but there is no doubt that both these drivers have had difficulty settling down with their new team. Both of them were with Ferrari last year. Both of them are with Benetton this year. They've had to get used to new methods, working out of England instead of Italy, working with a new engine, a Renault instead of a Ferrari, but still working with each other. You can see the result and how closely matched they are.
Well, the Martin Brundle-Olivier Panis duel seems to have been settled, because with great teamwork there from the Ligier team, and Panis being particularly quick into the pits and out of it, he got out ahead, not just ahead of Rubens Barrichello, but just ahead of Martin Brundle. We just caught a glimpse of that Jordan as he came out, although it was difficult, in fact impossible to identify until they came round. Now, Panis will be the one on fresher tyres. All the cars now have completed their pit stops. No more scheduled pit stops to go, so it's just a straight run to the flag with some 15 laps of the race to run. Now, I would expect to see Panis pull out from Martin Brundle. He was 3.2 seconds back, and indeed, as I say that, he's extended his lead in 7th place to 4.9. Panis still 18 seconds behind David Coulthard. So we've got Williams, Benetton, and McLaren. And I think if this race is significant for a change in fortunes of teams, it's for the clearest demonstration yet that we've seen McLaren team make inroads into the performance advantage that Jordan seemed to have had. And here, clearly, McLaren are ahead of them. And the also significant thing is that Martin Brundle is once again ahead there of Rubens Barrichello.
And Lacey trying desperately hard. I thought the Berger was going to close right up with him when Jean put his left rear tyre onto the grass. But just as we've got Williams, Benetton, McLaren. Here's a replay now. Watch Lacey's left rear wheel as he goes just over the curb, kicks up the dust. Berger was right under his rear wing, and Lacey retains the place. We're with Berger now. That's Lacey in front of us through the Imola turns, and that is at about 120 miles an hour into the Chateau d'Eau. And I was saying, whilst we've got Williams, Benetton, McLaren, we've got Renault, Mercedes in terms of engines. And if the French concern have the first 4 places at Magny Cours in front of their own people, this will be an absolutely wonderful achievement for them.
Absolutely, and of course Renault have been in the news in the last few weeks announcing that they are going to withdraw from Formula One, not at the end of this season, but at the end of 1997, and that is Frentzen off in the Sauber. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who was running in 10th place. It looks very much like a driving mistake for me. The body language says it, the shake of the head. Let's have a look, and there's Frentzen. He's on the curve, round through the left-hander. Let's watch, something clearly goes wrong. He's getting the back out of shape. And well, it looks to me like he might have had some suspension problem actually there. That right front being locked to me looks like maybe the left rear suspension is broken. And that would mean that his right front goes up into the air.
Well, one gets the impression that both Johnny Herbert and Heinz-Harald Frentzen have had it up to here with Sauber. Johnny Herbert is getting more and more despondent. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is getting more and more philosophic about the fact that he's not qualifying well. I think Frentzen started this race in 13th position. and Johnny Herbert was down in 17th place on the grid. They both seem to be pretty disenchanted, and one has to wonder what team they're going to be driving for next year, especially Frentzen, who is on the wanted list by quite a number of top teams.
Yes, indeed. This year hasn't been quite so good for him, but I still feel that in the right environment, fully motivated, Frentzen can be a real star of the future. Now, we're looking at a slow motion here. That's a Lacey in front in the Benetton. Berger right behind. These two locked in combat. Again, Berger's best race to date. Both drivers benefiting from increased work from the Benetton team. But back to Renault. Renault are withdrawing from Formula One at the end of 1997. And I think they're entirely justified in doing that, because they've set out, they've achieved everything that they intended to in Formula One. They've won Constructors' Championships, World Championships. The Renault engine has simply been the best in Formula One. Renault have come in, they've used their own engineers, and they've proven that they can get the job done. And there comes a point when the law of diminishing returns takes place, the investment stays at a very high level, but of course people tend to expect the Renault to win. It only becomes news, or big news, when it doesn't just do that. But whether they'll go off to IndyCar racing is something of conjecture. It's certainly possible. It seems that Bernard Dudo's team of highly skilled technicians are going to be applied to something. But of course, that also opens the question of what happens to the power supply for this team, Benetton, and for Williams. Well, the names that are being bandied around are Honda engines. Benetton are associated with Honda for the Grand Prix bike program, and that could mean that they would be a logical partner for their Formula One team. But on the other hand, we also have to acknowledge the fact that Williams are the leading constructor of this decade, and as such they will surely have the choice of any engine supplier that they would like to have. Williams admittedly had a rather acrimonious separation from Honda at the end of their term 5-10 years ago, but nevertheless I still think that's a very real possibility. At the moment we've got Renault, we've got Peugeot, Mercedes-Benz, all with absolutely superb engines, whilst we've got Ford working hard to try and close the gap and bring that Ford V10 somewhere near the performance of the leaders.
Damon Hill coming down to complete his 61st lap, and he has well and truly put down the threat of Jacques Villeneuve, because the gap now has been extended to nearly 14 seconds. There are 11 laps left, including the one that they are on. Hill leads Villeneuve by 14 seconds. There are 13 cars and drivers left in the race. The retirements in order of retirement are, first of all, the incredible situation when Michael Schumacher went out before the race had even started on the formation lap, followed by Montermini's 40, Fisichella's Minardi, Irvine's Ferrari, both of them out on by the fifth lap. Verstappen out in the Arrows, Deniz out in the Ligier, Badeur out in the second 40, Katayama out in the Tyrrell. Heinz-Harald Frentzen has just retired. You saw him walking in and in the pit lane from the Sauber team. And it's lap 62, Damon Hill coming up to lap Rosset again. Now, Rosset in the second of the two TWR Arrows, who has got David Coulthard ahead of him. Rosset has been lapped twice already. David Coulthard has not been lapped. He's in sixth position. Hill comes down to the Lycée. We're on the Williams Renault now. That's his 62nd lap completed. He's on lap 63. Pulls out behind the young Brazilian Ricardo Rosset, who's in his first season of Grand Prix racing, having driven extremely well in the European Formula 3000 category. And he has got the V8 Hart engine behind him, and hopefully Brian Hart is going to benefit from the fact that Renault are going out.
And just look at the difference in performance of those two engines on the straight there. And indeed, the Williams Renault is about 10 miles an hour faster on the speed traps than the Arrows Hart. Hill driving absolutely superbly, as we've seen so often this year. He really is, again, as we said before, a different driver. The mistakes of old, certainly in the context we've seen this year, seem to be largely eradicated. And he's come back well here this afternoon. He had a difficult warm-up period with those problems with his race car, with his spare car as well. He shrugged off the challenge from Jacques Villeneuve, who seems to be settling himself now for second place. 13.9 seconds is impossibly far back, unless something happens to Hill's car or he makes a mistake for him to challenge. But further back, Olivier Panis has really pulled out well from Martin Brundle, as indeed we suspected he would. He's now 12.8 seconds ahead of Brundle, who himself will be chuffed because he is 11 seconds ahead of Rubens Barrichello. Something of a mystery, really, as to why the Jordan cars are not going a little bit better than they are, because in terms of horsepower, the Peugeot engine is right up there. The Jordan cars are right at the top of the straight line speed charts every time, but they just seem to lose out on the corners. Maybe the suspension is a bit too stiff. Maybe they work the tyres a little bit too hard. But whatever, I'm sure that Gary Anderson and his team are scratching their heads, working out what they can do to bring themselves up on terms with the Benettons and certainly catch up McLaren, because as we've said, they have pulled out. Disappointing race, I think, a little bit for David Coulthard. He's 23 seconds behind Mika Hakkinen, and that's quite a long way. But on the other hand, as David recognises that it was Mika Hakkinen that had the testing with the revisions for the McLaren team, their front wing is swept further back than it was before, and that's helped their performance as well as the new rear suspension. Now, that characteristic that the car's been left with has not been good for David Coulthard. He's not had the confidence in it. He's had a few spins this weekend because the car is more nervous turning into the corners. And I think what we're seeing here today with Coulthard lagging behind Hakkinen is a manifestation of that David is not fully confident. Let's just hope he is in 2 weeks' time for the British Grand Prix.
Well, the lead of these two cars is Olivier Panis. He's in 7th place and he's been caught and will soon be lapped, I think, by Jacques Villeneuve, who is in 2nd position. And of course, Villeneuve is suffering meantime because Damon Hill will have increased the gap. Now, Damon said to me yesterday, I started from pole position for the last 3 years at Magny Cours. I finished 2nd in all those 3 years. I've never won in France. I'm starting from 2nd on the grid this year to Michael Schumacher, who's in pole position and who won last year and the year before. So hopefully, he said, this is a good omen for me. Well, thus far, he was absolutely right. He's on lap 65 now. So there's just laps 66, 7, 8, 9, 71 and 2 for him to go. And he is 14 seconds. I suspect more than that now, because you see Villeneuve is still locked in behind Panis, and I'm quite sure if he could get past the Ligier Mugen, he could go quicker than he is going now. But he's got this usual problem of buffeting from the car in front, which will affect the downforce on his front wing, which will affect the grip he's getting from his steering tyres at the front, and therefore slow down his lap speeds. Damon Hill, lap 65. Through the Imola turns go Panis and Villeneuve. So Alesi is 3rd, Berger is 4th, Hakkinen is 5th, Coulthard is 6th, Panis is 7th, Brundle is 8th, Barrichello is 9th, and Salo is 10th.
Yes, indeed, there really couldn't be a worse person for Villeneuve to be coming up behind at the moment, although he's really lost any hope of closing on Damon Hill. He'll be stuck behind, I think, Panis for some time, unless Olivier gives him some room, because Panis made that late 3rd stop. He's on fresher tyres than Villeneuve, fresher tyres than most cars out there, apart from Johnny Herbert. And also, the Honda Mugen engine is very powerful. The straight line speeds are good. This is where it'll show, and you can see that Villeneuve is not able to make a great deal of impression on that Ligier head as they go down the long straight. Well, having said that, he's gone straight by, so got to eat my words there. But that is cooperation. I'm going to justify that. That's cooperation there from Olivier Panis, and great credit to him too. And that was Panis lifting off early, allowing Villeneuve to carry on his way. And that's very professional from Panis. He knows that he's not going to be able to hold him off for the following 7 laps of the race, and it's just the right thing to do. I think it's interesting looking at these cars. It's so easy for us to look on and just see them running around like clockwork. Everything absolutely hunky-dory. But in fact, I can tell you that inside most of these cockpits, maybe not Damon Hill's because he's comfortably out in front, but inside virtually every other cockpit, the drivers are going to be struggling now with cars that are not gripping as well as they'd like. Evidence of it there is the right front locks of Panis' Ligier, because the tyres are past their best. Now that is Olivier Panis leaving the door wide open quite correctly. Villeneuve goes through, a little bit of a wave there from Villeneuve as he tucks in, and he really won't have lost too much time at all. In fact, it's 13.8 seconds as they cross the line on that, so nothing was indeed lost from Villeneuve. But inside the cars, each driver will be feeling that loss of grip from the tyres having deteriorated. If they put on new tyres now, they'd be lapping a second and a half faster, maybe even 2 seconds. They'll find they have to brake a little bit earlier. They find they have to brake a little bit more for every corner because they can't turn in quite as fast. The grip is not there. Then, having slowed up a little bit more into, say, this corner here, they can't quite get on the throttle as early to get back on the power to start accelerating. The grip all over is slightly reduced, and Berger is still all over Jean Alesi.
Indeed he is. Lap 67, Alesi still 3rd, Berger still 4th, and Gerhard has got the problem, of course, that Villeneuve has got with Olivier Panis. He's got a car that is equally quick and a driver who's equally talented in front of him. And unless Alesi makes a mistake, it's very unlikely that Gerhard will get past him. Because Gerhard is not going to do anything silly. It's his teammate in front of him. They both want to finish. The only orders that they will have had are don't take each other off. So Berger is not going to be rushing up the inside and interlocking wheels with Alesi in order to get through. Now, Damon Hill is on his 68th lap. He's got a comfortable 13.9 seconds lead over his teammate, Jacques Villeneuve. And if they finish where they are now, I'm certainly not going to say that Damon Hill is going to win this race, because there are still laps to go and anything can happen until the winner sees the checkered flag. But if Hill finishes first and if Villeneuve finishes second, the positions in the World Championship will be the same as they are now. But Damon Hill will have increased his 21-point advantage over Villeneuve to 25 points. 10 points for a victory, 6 points for second place. And Williams, of course, who are already 50 points ahead of Ferrari, will have scored another 16 points, which will give them a total, dramatically increase their lead over the second place team in the Constructors' Championship to an incredible 66 points. I said in Canada that I could visualise Patrick Head, who is the technical chief of the Williams team and has produced such a superb car, with Adrian Newey and everybody else who works at the Williams factory, metaphorically polishing the Constructors' Championship trophy already. Well, if I said that in Canada and they are going to score, it looks as though, another 16 points here, I should think he will have every reason to start thinking about doing it very seriously. Lap 69, 72-lap race. Hill leads, Villeneuve second. You're looking at the battle for third place between Alesi and number 4 there, Gerhard Berger. They are 11 seconds ahead of Mika Hakkinen, and David Coulthard is in the points as well. So it's still Williams, Benetton, McLaren.
It's amazing how closely matched this pairing, this Benetton driver pairing of Jean Alesi and Gerhard Berger, have been for many years now. We've seen it this year in qualifying, in which Jean Alesi generally qualifies fourth, Gerhard Berger right behind him in fifth. And we saw them tied together pretty much when they drove for Ferrari for the past few seasons as well. But there's little Berger, I think, can do about Jean Alesi. He's remaining a second behind. It's near enough to capitalise on any mistake Alesi might make. I don't think he will, though. But on the other hand, it's far enough away that he's not being affected by the airflow too much from the car ahead. So the gap stabilises with Hill and Villeneuve as well. 13 seconds in that one. Whilst David Coulthard is gently, very gently sliding further back from his teammate Mika Hakkinen. And Rubens Barrichello has dropped a long way back from Martin Brundle. Now 18 seconds behind. Barrichello having a good race here last year. When he was with Jordan, he out-qualified his teammate Eddie Irvine, which was a rare thing to happen last year. But this year, he's really had a good start. But the last two races, it's been Martin Brundle that's had the upper hand. And we may well see this pattern continuing, particularly, of course, as the next Grand Prix takes place at Silverstone. And there is a track that Martin Brundle knows very well indeed. And the psychological advantage does appear to be swinging.
Now, to coin a phrase, I've said this before, and I'm now going to say it again. In my opinion, Damon Hill is a very much underestimated driver, notwithstanding the fact that he's coming up, hopefully, from his point of view, to his 19th Grand Prix victory in his 60th Grand Prix. Now, that is nearly a strike rate of 1 in 3 victories. It is an absolutely superb performance by any standards and matches some of the greatest of all time. It compares more than well with Michael Schumacher, and Damon Hill is almost home now. He's coming through to complete his 70th lap. To start, he's into now his last lap but one.
Now, apart from being another win for Damon Hill, this will also be the 90th Grand Prix victory for the Williams team. Now, currently, the all-time record is held by Ferrari on 106. But when one looks at the actual number of Grand Prix won per Grand Prix started as a percentage, Williams are well on top, having won 25%. That's 1 in 4, of course, of every Grand Prix they've ever entered. Quite a staggering performance. Second is, in fact, McLaren, who won 23% of their Grand Prix with Ferrari, back having won 18%.
And while we're throwing statistics at you, here's another one. If either Hill or Villeneuve win this race, it will be the 50th Williams victory with a Renault engine. Another superb performance. So, lap 51, you're watching the man in second place. The massed ranks of French spectators are going to be very happy when they go home, because it certainly looks like being French Renault engines in the first 4 places and French Peugeot engines in 8th and 9th places with Brundle and Barrichello. As they approach the start of the last lap, Damon Hill has got a commanding 11.5 second lead over his teammate. There is the battle between 3rd and 4th, Alesi and Berger, coming to the 180 with about half a lap to go to start their last one. Hakkinen and Coulthard are still 5th and 6th, and here is Damon Hill.
Damon Hill positively cruising now, the Williams team getting ready for Hill to take the victory after what's been an absolutely superb race for him. The challenge that might have come from Schumacher came to nothing when the continuation of the recent Ferrari pantomime took Schumacher out on the formation lap. Behind Hill, Villeneuve has recovered well from being 6th on the grid to take 2nd place, whilst Benetton have done a great bit of teamwork to get both their drivers up in the top 4, Alesi 3, Gerhard Berger 4th, while McLaren 2 are showing that they've been hard at work improving their car. Hakkinen is back on form in 5th, and David Coulthard picking up the final point in 6th place.
Out of the 180 into the Nürburgring bends. Damon has only got a few corners left now. There are the Imola turns. The next right-hander that he goes round is the Chateau d'Eau, which leads into the drop down to the chicane. This is 150 miles an hour. Here is the chicane coming up. You'll see the last corner of the last lap. And at Magny, France, Damon Hill wins the French Grand Prix, his 6th victory of the year, and it increases his World Championship lead over his teammate Jacques Villeneuve to a massive 25 points. Villeneuve, we're with him now, finishes in 2nd place. Alesi and Berger, I'm sure, will be coming through in 3rd and 4th places for Benetton to give Renault that 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th finish that they must have been praying for at their home track in France. So there is Gerhard Berger, and you can see that Jean Alesi is in front of him in formation. Down to the last corners come the 2 Benettons. Williams leads, Williams 2nd, Benetton 3rd, Benetton 4th. The mass ranks of Benetton mechanics cheer their drivers home, and Gerhard Berger passes Jean Alesi on the run-down lap. Mika Hakkinen will come through in 5th position. It's been a good race for McLaren because Coulthard, there's Hakkinen just going past me now to finish in 5th position. And David Coulthard, being a lap down, has already completed his race. Only 5 cars and drivers have gone the full 72 laps distance at Magny, and those were, of course, the 2 Williams, the 2 Benettons, and Mika Hakkinen's McLaren. So a great race for Williams, a good race for Benetton. I can't say a great race for Benetton because 3rd and 4th is not what they wanted. 1st and 2nd is what they wanted. But a good race, a much improved race for McLaren. They've done a gigantic amount of work on the car. It is getting better and better race by race. And hopefully we'll see it being more competitive. The next Grand Prix is, of course, the British Grand Prix at Silverstone in 2 weeks' time. And the tremendous speed at Silverstone and the corners they have there are going to suit the Williams Renaults just as much as Magny has.
And a fantastic performance from Damon Hill here. He really is just so confident these days. Coming back after that difficult warm-up. When he had a threat there, there's no doubt about it, from Michael Schumacher, I don't think it would have come to anything. I really don't think that Ferrari have got, clearly they haven't got the reliability, but they haven't got the pace in a race situation. It's just Schumacher's extraordinary talent which can allow him to delve deep into getting qualifying form. But when it comes to the racing, I think Damon would have been well out in front, making best possible use of what's undoubtedly an excellent car. And I'm sure he'll jump out of that being cool, calm and refreshed. It seems there's David Coulthard coming back. We did see Damon come past that McLaren stopped. Whether he's run out of fuel, that's possibly the most likely scenario, or had a breakdown with it, in which case it was very, very fortunately timed. But a bit of Formula One bonhomie being demonstrated there as Ricardo Rosset brings David Coulthard back. Damon Hill, absolutely ecstatic. His 6th win of the season now out of 8 Grand Prix, and that is a great record. And I'm sure that we'll see Jacques Villeneuve come over to him and be the first to congratulate him. There's a good deal of genuine friendship, I think, between these two. Of course, teammates are rivals, but nevertheless, they have a great deal of respect for each other's abilities.
Well, Damon's now won 6 out of the first 9 races. We all rightly made a big song and dance about the fact that Nigel Mansell won 9 races in 1992 and that Michael Schumacher won 9 races last year. But the rate Damon Hill is going now, he could beat both of them. And let us not forget that whilst people are rightly offering a lot of praise for Michael Schumacher, who is an absolutely brilliant driver, it's not good enough to be a good driver. You've got to have the right car. And I am very disappointed indeed, as Ferrari and Maranello will be, with their performance in the last 2 races. Both cars failed to finish in Canada. Both cars failed to finish or even go beyond 5 laps in France. That is not the revival that the Maranello team, the great Maranello team, was hoping for. Damon Hill, replay, crosses the line, waves to his Williams team mechanics on the left as he goes by. I've done it. Another 10 points, 25 ahead in the championship. Hill leads, Villeneuve second, Schumacher in 3rd position is now 12 points behind Villeneuve and only 1 point ahead of Jean Alesi, who is 4th. David Coulthard is 5th in the championship, ahead of Mika Hakkinen. 2 points separate them. And then, of course, there's that enormous gap. Williams are now on 101 points. And Ferrari and Benetton, bad news for Ferrari, good news for Benetton, are tying for 2nd place in the Constructors' Championship on 35 points, compared with Williams at 101. And Ferrari and Benetton are 9 points ahead of McLaren, who are 14 points ahead of Ligier in 5th place. Sauber are in 6th position. So running very, very quickly through the teams. An awful race for Ferrari, a good race for Benetton, a brilliant race for Williams, a good race for McLaren, not at all a bad race for Ligier, because Diniz was right up in the points when he went out, and Parnis has finished in 7th position. As far as Jordan are concerned, well, 8th and 9th for Brundle and Barrichello. Obviously not as good as they or Peugeot would have wanted, but it takes a long, long time to get to the top in Formula One. Jordan are investing in very heavily indeed in infrastructure, taking people on, enlarging their facilities at their Silverstone factory. An awful race for Sauber, and the winners on the podium. Has been here to see her husband win the French Grand Prix, and Jean-Marie Balestre, who used to be the scourge of Formula One as the head of the FIA, hands the winning trophy, and what a super trophy it looks, to Damon Hill to go into his winning cabinet. And now he gives the trophy to Jacques Villeneuve. That's another 2nd place for Jacques. He was 2nd in Australia, 2nd in Argentina, and 2nd in Canada. And the 3rd place trophy will be handed, of course, to Jean Alesi, France's own. Jean-Marie Balestre hands over all 3 trophies. So the winner from England, the 2nd place man from Canada, the 3rd place man from France, British team wins first and second places. Benetton is now an Italian team officially, notwithstanding the fact that its headquarters is at Enstone in Oxfordshire, and third and fourth places for them. And of course, it's a very British-based team at McLaren, fifth and sixth places for Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard. And a truly eventful French Grand Prix, because who would ever have forecast that Michael Schumacher, having brilliantly, and I use the word advisedly, taken pole position from Damon Hill at the last possible moment, having already taken pole positions for the San Marino and Monaco Grand Prix, would retire when his engine let go on the formation lap. A very, very bad happening for Ferrari.
Yes, it's certainly very tough on Michael Schumacher, but nevertheless, he should have known what he was letting himself in for this year. The Ferrari reliability record has not been good over recent years, and he had to have a lot of hope in the renewed or improved performance that the car was going to have this year. Well, so far, really neither of those things have happened, and I think the performance we're seeing from Schumacher and the results he's getting really could as well have happened last year with the V12 engine car in terms of its relative performance amongst the competition. There goes Frentzen again. I'm sure that was some kind of suspension problem that he had on that car. Now, it remains to be seen for the balance of the year. Can Ferrari get their act together? There's a lot of work that's got to go on there. They need to get the car to be faster. It's not fast. It's not reliable. And I can see Schumacher getting pretty frustrated with this. He's very good at being diplomatic. He's very good at being supportive to the team. But despite the $25 million that he's alleged to be being paid there, I think his patience will start to wear thin.